Yes, I'm Jens Bennetzen from the Engineering College of Aarhus. I'll try to take a little different perspective than most of the other teachers, or sorry, the other presentations here at this conference, because I take the view of an institution, not the view of a single teacher or the view of a single program. So what I will try to talk a little bit about is what we as an institution do in order to hinder students dropping out from our programs. So, you know, we have this challenge here at this conference. How should we actually create the CDIO? I did a little bit here, create dropout hindering operations. This is actually what I'll be talking about, because if we look at the political agenda, at least in Denmark or in Europe, what we face is a lot of old engineers leaving the workforce and less young engineers actually entering the workforce. So we have, as institution, we have to create more engineering students. And of course we can do that in two ways. First of all, we can try to get more students to enter the engineering programs. But secondly, we could also try to see if those students who are already in our programs would actually stay there. So this is the last thing that I will try to address a little bit today, what we have done as an institution to actually have these, to achieve that goal. I was very curious. Well, we did a little work on seeing how many students will actually leave our degree programs. When previously I was in computer science and I looked into the UNESCO, they have actual numbers of students enrolling and graduating in different countries all over the world. And we did a little study from their database trying to see, well, what was the number of students who enrolled in computer science programs and what was the number of students who, let's say, 5 years after actually graduated with the same competences or the same programs. And if I look at this, you can see, well, we have the purple one is the number of students enrolling, and the blue one is the number of students graduating. And if you look at this, sorry, US does not supply statistics to the UNESCO, neither does China, neither does India. So of course there are other students who will actually, or other programs who's not here, but this is about 27–30% of the students who entered 5 years previously actually graduate after 5 years. And no, there is a span in the duration of programs, but if we take the approximation that actually well, it takes 5 years to graduate, then this is only about 30%. There's also been more into engineering education that, well, in 1970, then about 50% entering engineering education actually graduated. So I think we have a huge obligation not just to go and find new students, but also to do as an institution what we can do to ensure that the students will stay there. And of course, we as teachers does a lot. I try to do a lot by being active or being funny or whatever in order to say, well, the students should stay here. But as institutions, we also have a lot of responsibility and active in order to actually ensure that students will stay here. So, what have we done as an institution here? Well, we have taken two types of actions, what I will call prior to entering actions and also actions when the students are actually enrolled in our program. What can we do in order to keep the students there? If we look at, if we look at our statistics, this is the dropout during the first year in percentage from this institution. And yes, this is again one of the happy whatever demonstrations here that this is actually falling. But as you can see, well, there is of course these fluctuations between the percentage of students dropping out from the first year. So since I'm the one standing between you and the pancakes, I would like you to discuss with your neighbor in 2 minutes, what does your institution, not you as a teacher, but what does your institution do in order to hinder the students dropping out? So 2 minutes, I'll be the timekeeper here. Talk to your neighbor. What do you actually do? Because then we hopefully will foster the discussion afterwards. If I look at my institution, what we do is, as I said, prior to entering the institution, we have, well, first of all, we have what we call a math help course. The students are allowed, many students coming to our institutions. It's, well, several years since they left high school. So their math is a little rusty, and we have what we call a math brush-up course that the students can take on a voluntary basis, that they feel hopefully a little more comfortable when they enter our program within math. So that's one of the two things we do. The other thing is that we have, of course, as you probably also have, outreach programs for high schools, where we invite the high schools to come to the institution and see what is it actually to be learning engineering within this particular institution. If we look when they're here, we have several things that we as an institution try to do. First of all, we have we have two types of dropouts. We have what we call qualified dropout and unqualified dropout. Qualified dropout is students leaving us, but we know that they will proceed another career, another educational program. They enter another educational program. That's no problem, because then they are on their way. Of course, it's a problem for us because we don't get paid for them. But anyway, if we look at the students, it's not a problem. The problem is the unqualified dropout, where we are not sure that the students actually will continue in a good educational manner. So what we do here, we have several, as I said, things that we try to do. First of all, we have what we call the study technique course, that the students can actually take a course in. This is not something they get some credits for, but they can take a course where they learn to be what we call good students. Many students find it extremely difficult to switch from high school to the university because, well, we have a lot of more demand on, well, they should be doing something on their own. So we create this opportunity for students to do this study technique course where, well, they hopefully will learn something. The second thing we do is trying to create some kind of networks for minority students. And what could minority students be? Well, that could be mothers. We actually have students who are mothers. They find themselves as a minority because, well, they have problems that are not shared with their normal other student mates. We have like women in computing. That's another minority, I can say. We have dyslexic students. That's another minority where we as an institution try to create networks for those students. We identify them and we create network for them. We set up the network. We do not run the network, but we set up the network. And then hopefully they find that, well, there are someone else who has the same kind of problems, and we see that that also helps the students to succeed. We also do exam training courses. Many of our students will find that when they enter this is the first time they actually have to do an oral examination. In their high school, they have been written examination. They have not seen this type of oral examination prior to actually entering our institution. So they have, well, a lot of fear in structuring their material and preparing for the exam. So we try to teach them that they should make an outline of the exam questions. They should, if an exam questions are not given, they should imagine what could exam questions be. A good idea is to look at the agenda of the course and see, well, there are some headlines for each week. Probably an exam question, yeah. So we'll try to do that. We also have what we call a student mentoring scheme. So this is, we hire old students to take care of the new students. So an old student who has been a student for a year or 2 years and something like that in an institution takes care of ensuring that these new students actually are well taken care of. They know where the toilets are, they know where the canteen are, they know where the pubs are, they know whatever that is actually very important as a student, because it's not just about the learning, it's also about being a whole person here. So this is what we do for this. The older students, the mentors, actually get 2.5 ECTS points, so that's how we pay them, by credits. Not by money, but by credit, because we think they will learn a lot of the 2, 3, and 4 CDIO competences by being a mentor for younger students. Our study administration plays a large role here, because what they do is they actually follow each student and see how they're doing, how they're performing. These students, did they not show up to their exams? Did they actually miss an exam? Well, if they're missing too many exams, then the student administration will inform the student counselor, and the student counselor will actually call, typically by mobile phone, the student and say, well, Peter, why weren't you to that exam? What was your problem? Tell me about your problem. Is there something that we as an institution can do to help you come on, succeed in your actual completion of your program? And then we also have, well, we had 2 types of student counselors. We have what we call a general student counselor and a technical or a student counselor who has a technical background. Typically a teacher in the first year of the degree program. And they take all the students in the first year, or actually it's after 7 weeks, 8 weeks when they have started studying here, and call them into a formal conversation in about 5, 7, 10 minutes, a formal conversation where they ask the students, how are you doing? How is your going on here at the college? What's your problem? Are you still convinced that you will be an engineer, or do you have other ideas? So they have this very structured way of trying to talk to the new students, and by that also having the students telling that they actually are still on the right track, and if they're not, we have the possibility of helping the students to not be dropping just out, but actually to be continuing on another program. And last but not least, it's all about you, all about the teachers, because what is extremely important here is not to see them as a number. This is not student 2009-0338, but it is actually Peter. So we try to have all the teachers, we do that a lot, we try to persuade the teachers to see them not as this is the auditorium, these are all the students, but actually to see them as persons. So it's time for questions or comments on what do you as an institution do to hinder dropout. So good examples. And silence.